Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Waterbury Board of Education workshop here at the Enlightenment School. I want to thank Mr. Arroyo, Dr. Arroyo, for his hospitality, and welcome to all the staff and that are here tonight. We'll begin tonight with a silent prayer. Vice President Harvey, would you please lead us in the pledge?
Sure. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Dr. Arroyo, you're up.
Well, good evening, Board of Ed members, school personnel, Dr. Ruffin, and community stakeholders. We're happy to have you here at Enlightenment School tonight. I will address the BOE with 3 points of interest that are being used as our guiding principles. The 3 points are attendance, discipline, and academics. Attendance. Enlightenment's ESSA, or chronic absenteeism target, for the 2019-2020 school year is 71%. We are currently at 56%, which is 14.7 below our target. Our chronic absenteeism team meets every Tuesday at 9 a.m. to discuss our students. Our teachers meet in teams daily to discuss the absenteeism numbers according to grade level and work through the tiered interventions according to district protocols. Discipline. Enlightenment's 2-year data analysis during the time frame from the first day of school to October 1st. Through the 18-19 school year, we had 152 referrals resulting in 8 arrests, 15 in-school suspensions, and 61 out-of-school suspensions. That was for the 18-19 school year. For the 19-20 school year, during that same time frame, we have 60 referrals resulting in only 2 arrests, 3 in-school suspensions, and 17 out-of-school suspensions. So our numbers have significantly declined with all the interventions and many of the protocols that we have in place. And I really like to touch a point with our social-emotional platform, social-emotional learning platform that we've worked through with the help of Dr. Baker, and working through our various professional development cycle is an attribute to that, is how we contribute to the lowering of those numbers. And finally, academics. At the midway point of the first marking period, we at Enlightenment have 22 students who are not just meeting expectations, but exceeding expectations and really surpassing them. We started a new initiative this year called Student in Good Standing. The 6 criteria focuses on data, and the 3 data points reviewed are attendance. Students must have no more than 3 unexcused absences. Discipline, students must have 0 in-school or out-of-school suspensions. And academics, students must have an average of 85 across the board. So roughly 15% of our student population is listed as students in good standing currently. So we're very proud of our students, our teachers, and all that we're doing here at Enlightenment School. So I thank you all very much for coming to our building, allowing us to share some of our finer points, and look forward to talking to you all very soon.
Any questions for Dr. Arroyo?
Question.
Vice President Harvey.
All right, Mr. Arroyo. Okay. Mr. Arroyo, it's good to see you.
Nice to see you.
When you're sharing the data, could you go back and tell me about the drop in arrests and suspensions? Could you read that again, please?
Yeah, certainly. Last year, we had 8 arrests as of September 20th. This year, we've had 2 arrests
All
as
right.
of September 20th.
Good. And your suspensions?
Suspensions, we had a combined 76 suspensions as of the same time last year, up until
Okay.
October 1st, and only 20 suspensions this
Got it.
school year so
Okay.
far.
That's great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I'm curious, in terms of the attendance, I know we've heard from other school districts in terms of the major reason, and we've been looking at data across the district and seeing that medical is really one of the major reasons. I don't know, are you finding that?
We did have a few students that were medically exempt initially, early in the year, as it relates to their all their shots and those various vaccinations. I know we have had a couple students that were excluded for medical reasons due to hospitalizations or various situations such as that, but that still reflect on our absenteeism numbers. So yeah, medical were some of our reasons for our chronic
So what would you
absenteeism.
say would be some other reasons for students not showing up?
You know, I think the transiency is one big thing. I think maybe some instability in their lives. You know, I know that we've really fostered a family feel here at Enlightenment, and I think that's what has increased our daily attendance, just to let them know that we care about you. Please come to school. Come be a part of our world, or your world, actually. And I know during our CAP meetings, our chronic absenteeism team meetings, we actually make phone calls right on the spot. In fact, a quick story, on Tuesday at 9 a.m., we had one meeting, and I called home asking where our little student was, and there was a good reason, so they thought, and I said, that's not a good reason? Come on, Mom, get her to school. Within 45 minutes, the student pulled up to the building, and I happened to be near the door, so I welcomed the student in. So just a simple phone call. Obviously, we're a smaller population, so we have that opportunity to make those types of outreach. However, I think that personal touch that we're utilizing here at Enlightenment is partially to
Great.
speak towards our better numbers thus far in the school year.
Great, well, keep the good work up, and thanks to all your staff and everybody who's doing such a great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anybody here from the public who wishes to speak?
Thank you.
Okay, seeing none, we'll continue with the agenda. Number 2, request approval of Waterbury School Readiness Quality Enhancement Contracts. I think Darren is going to fill in for Karen. I know she was away, yeah.
Hi, good evening, everyone.
Evening.
The total funding for the Quality Enhancement Grant for the fiscal year 1920 is $75,641. The purpose of this grant is to provide funding for early care and education programs to address the quality standards and expand comprehensive services for children and families. The School Readiness Council has met and set priorities for this grant. This year's grant includes professional development activities, on-site coaching for teachers in the pyramid model, BCBA support for programs, and increased capacity for monitoring quality standards in their programs. The following has been approved by the Waterbury School Readiness Council for funding: pyramid training and coaching for $27,200, BCBA support for community school readiness programs at $16,735, and program monitoring support at $8,625.
Any questions? I think we're pretty familiar with these grants. Okay, thanks, Darren. Okay. Number 3, request approval of professional services agreement for Department of Education Food Services Courier Services with Joseph Cayozzo, Abbey Vending Company, DB. Okay. Will Clark, I guess, is up. Enter, stage left.
Good evening.
Evening.
This is an agreement, essentially a renewal that deals with the services of picking up the cash from the various school locations that still engage in some purchase meals, usually the second meal. All the meals are free first, and then some staff meals and so forth. So it's picking that up, depositing the bank, and so forth. It was competitively bid. The rates are there. The contract itself will be worked out and confirmed by Corp Counsel, so there may be some adjustments and some language and things like that. But essentially, that's the deal. Vendor had done it before, essentially renewal.
Any questions? Okay, thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Clark. We look forward to the grand opening. Next, number 4, request approval of contract amendments with the following for out-of-district placements for students. We have Elaine Skowronski up. Good evening, Elaine.
Good evening. Elaine Skowronski, Special Ed Department. We're requesting the approval of 3 amendments to current contracts that we have for out-of-district placements. The first one is Area Cooperative Education Services, known as ACES. We're asking that that contract be increased by $400,000 to the total amount of $3,534,672. And Benhaven, Inc., we're asking that that contract be increased by $70,000 for a total amount of $1,167,292. And finally, the third would be Connecticut Institute for the Blind. We wish to increase that contract by $625,000, and the total amount of the contract would be $1,148,392. The first 2 contracts expire in June of this year, of 2020, and the contract for the Connecticut Institute for the Blind expires 1 year later, June 30th, 2021. Each increase is as a result of more students being placed in the schools.
Okay, any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Number 5, request approval of an agreement with Waterbury Youth Services as required by the Youth Service Bureau grant for truancy prevention. Dr. Baker and Kathy Crow is with us from Good evening, Kathy. How are you? Very good. Good. Sure.
Good evening, Michelle Baker, Assistant Superintendent, Pupil Personnel. Our department is requesting the approval of the contract with the Waterbury Youth Services, Inc. Waterbury Services serves as the local youth service bureau for the city of Waterbury. This contract has been put into past, we've done this contract in the past. The current state grant application was done and just approved, and we are requesting to move forward again this year under the same stipulations.
And I think you gave us the truancy, and really appreciate the data. I think this is what we've been really looking for. Really appreciate it because it gives us the root causes that we've been looking for. It gives us, client outcomes. This is really good information. We really appreciate it, Kathy, because I think that was our concern last year at this time. If I remember, we didn't feel like we had the data. So it looks like, given the work that you're doing now in terms of intake and tracking, there seems to be a lot more success with the kids. So thank you.
We appreciated your feedback last year and tried to meet your request.
Yeah. So again, as I said to Dr. Arroyo, medical seems to be, what kind of medical? Is it, they're just in the emergency room? I mean, what is the medical?
So much of it was asthma that we separated that out,
Oh.
but even beyond asthma, they, it's a variety of things.
Okay.
The flu, kinds of everything. General not feeling well is kind of what we get from families.
Okay. So remind me, Dr. Baker, maybe you can remind me, if a student is out for a certain amount of time, don't we give them homebound services?
If students meet the criteria, yes.
So do any of these kids who were considering truant, would we have cross-reference to make sure that they're not?
Yes, that's
Okay.
all, that's
all
vetted
been
out
done.
prior to.
Okay, all right,
yes.
okay. Commissioner Van Stone.
Thank you, Madam President, and I think a lot of the redo was my request, so thank you so much. I will still ask about 2 things. Transportation, is that on us that transportation is not provided or missed the bus, et cetera?
We've incurred, now what we're doing is we're meeting weekly with Waterbury Services to speak to each of these cases as they come through individually so that we are able to collect better data and aggregate it. But for the majority, it's students saying that they've missed the bus the first time around and not having a backup to bring them to school the following.
Hard to correct that. Number 2 on the list is sleep issues. Could look at it 2 ways. Get up, or the other issue is, that's being addressed nationwide, is are we asking our students to go to school too early in the morning? And maybe we need to address school start times.
I think that's true. I think any adolescent would tell you it's, they're sleep deprived, and certainly the studies show that our young people are sleep deprived. They require more sleep as adolescents than we do as an adult or as younger children do, and their schedules don't really accommodate that. So a lot of it's oversleeping, not being able to sleep at night, and then oversleeping in the morning. We hear a variety of different explanations, but you're absolutely right.
Right. It's complicated to just say, let's go to school 20 minutes later, with the number of buses we have, et cetera.
I understand.
But I still think we need to take a look at that. I think we're one of the last, not to say we haven't looked at it, but one of the last to adjust our start times. So I see it's number 2 on the list, which if you did, a poll across and you wanted to eliminate the excuses across, medical, it's hard, but the next tall pole is sleep issues. So I think we need to address that maybe in a different way. Okay, so thank you. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much, appreciate it. Okay, number 6, request approval to apply for the Connecticut Statement Department of Education 21st Century Community Learning Center grant for the following: Wallace, Westside, Chase, and Bunker Hill. And we have Mr. Schwartz is up.
Good evening again. As you know, we have several after-school 21st century programs. This time around, we are applying for Wallace Middle School and to include the Academic Academy in that for grades 4 to 8 for the after-school programming. Westside Middle School, Chase Elementary, and Bunker Hill Elementary School. The proposed budgets revolving around transportation, academics, and the recreation component to the 21st century grant are outlined in your materials. The reason you may be asking is the Wallace and Westside are there, whereas North End still has 2 more years of their current grant. So in case that's what anyone was wondering.
Okay. And I believe it's been at Chase before, right?
It has,
And Bunker Hill. So
It has.
those are all repeats.
yes.
Any questions? I just had a quick question. How many students are in these programs?
Total for the entire district, or how many?
In the 21st century, are we serving a few hundred or?
Oh, it's probably closer to 1,000.
Really?
By the end of
Great.
it. Yeah,
Okay.
we have a lot of programs. I actually asked Louise to send me a list of all the schools, but I can actually give you an update on where all the schools
That
are in
would
their
be
grant
great.
cycles and the students that we're serving. But at this point, if we get this, once we secure up
Yep.
these grants, we'd be closer to 1,000 with these grants.
Great. Because I think it was Commissioner Hernandez had asked that one time, get a list of all the different programs in the school. So that would be very helpful.
Yes.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Any questions for Mr. Schwartz? Seeing none, thank you. Are you up again? No, wait a minute. Okay. Committee, Tevel, Edevel, I don't know what that means, to be distributed.
We're not going to be doing that one for tonight.
Okay, that's tabled. Is that the correct word, and tabled, or is that just, is it correct?
I'm not going there.
Huh?
I'm not going there.
You're not going there, okay, all right. Right, okay. Number 8, Mr. Palmer, Human Resources Staffing Report.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening, Mr. Palmer.
Well, I was all set to do a nice PowerPoint presentation, but I think everybody has the handouts, correct?
Yes.
I hope.
Do we have it, Carrie? Do we have the handout? Yeah, we have it, okay.
Very good.
Everybody have it? Okay.
What I tried to do is to follow kind of the format that was in place last year, just to make sure that I picked up all of the relevant information. The first sheet you see there basically conforms to the EEO5 report, and I use that as a template to insert all of the data relative to our hires for teachers and administrators for this year. And this represents our hires, which are actually kind of summarized on the second page where it talks about the staffing report continued, and that's probably a little easier to read, the print's a little bigger. But in terms of our hires, we hired, as you can see, 102 teachers and 6 administrators during this period. 80 were whites, 3 blacks, 19 Hispanics, 4 Asians, and 2 or more races. And then basically with the teacher combined male-female hires represented 77, which was 75.49 whites, 2 blacks, 17 Hispanics, 3 Asians, and 2 or more races were the last category. On the next page, listed the resignations and retirements. We had 4 retirements, 2 moved out of state, 50 provided no reason, 14 left for another district, and 1 was due to a loss of certification. Another thing that was covered last year, which I wanted to cover this year, was on the vacancies. There's currently 5 administrative vacancies, 11 elementary vacancies, the middle school, 12 vacancies, and at the high school, 16 vacancies for a total of 44. So
Wow.
again, just kind of a recap on new hires. The total number of teacher hires as of 10/1 was 102. The new teacher hires self-identity as minority was 24.51%. The number of administrative hires as of 10/1/19 was 6, and 50% of the new administrative hires self-identify as minority. And I guess they also covered last year areas of positions that we felt were high priorities. And so of those 44, there's probably a lot of priorities, but we're really finding it challenging to hire secondary math and science teachers and staff at that level. So that certainly is a priority of the district, and we are doing whatever we can to try to move that forward. At one of the meetings during the summer, I presented with Will some of the things that personnel and talent management were involved with and projects underway. And so I won't spend a lot of time on this because I know it was supposed to be geared toward the staff summary, but this gives you a listing of things that HR and talent management have been involved with in the last 3 months. And in a lot of instances, we've been able to complete those projects, and we're very pleased with that, and we'll continue to move forward with updating or revising or establishing new policies and procedures. We have the policies presented to the policy subcommittee of the board. All of those have been proposed for the 4,000 series, and again, there's a number of other projects that are underway that we're hoping will come to fruition within the next few months. I think I did that within 10 minutes.
You've been very busy. So if my memory serves, this is the first time we've had such comprehensive handbooks.
That's correct.
So, wow, that's fantastic, because I think it makes everybody understand what's expected and what's there, and thank you very much. That really is raising the bar, and raising the standard for our district. I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Any questions, Commissioners? Commissioner Vanstone.
If anyone. Thank you, Madam President. You know, we go to slide, whatever number they are, I think it's 4, that breaks it out. Either way, what I'm getting at is, you know, we have a number that we're promoting for minority hires. But when you break it down further, the African-American hires is only 2.7%. What I would like to see, because I think it goes to the root of how we can hire. And so you had, whatever that math was, 100 and something new hires. If you then take it one step further for the applicants, accepted applicants, and keep on going, are we only seeing that small 2.78% because of the number of applicants you even had at your process to offer a job? And the reason I keep going one step further, does that mean one of two things? Our recruitment process, which I think is very robust right now, or is this a point where, and I've said this for years now, that our colleges are not producing the minority teachers that we need? And I've always felt the root cause of the population should go back to the colleges. We take the heat at the school level, but if you need to fill 200 jobs, but colleges are only producing, and I'm just using numbers, 10 African-American teachers, how are we ever going to raise our numbers?
Right.
The root cause really needs to go back to the colleges, but we are the ones that take the heat for this. So do we know those numbers of applicants, you know, say divided by the number of open positions? And how do we get to that point? Are we putting the pressure on the wrong people?
Well, there's a lot of ways, quite honestly, to answer that. I think the colleges.
Lee, could you talk into the microphone?
Sure. Colleges very well could be part of it. I think also that there's incredible competition for those minority candidates. And there's a lot of opportunities potentially out there for them. And so I think ultimately what we have to try to do is to make Waterbury a welcoming environment. And that's where I think talent management comes in to a certain extent, and being able to create a culture here which embraces those candidates. So I think it's a combination of things. I think it's the colleges. I think when we look at the labor market data, we see that there is a relatively low number of certainly African Americans that are in the market that we can recruit. And I think that, you know, that's one of the reasons the notion of things like grow your own are very apropos, because I think we have to just embrace a multiplicity of ways to get qualified minority candidates to the district. And it's going to require, and we're trying to do this, we talked about this the other night, outreach. We have Jessica's going to be going to one of the historically black colleges and universities. She's going to be going to Bethune and trying to recruit there. We're trying to do the outreach as much as we can, job fairs. So I think it's really going to require a united effort, if you will, and we're going to have to attack it on a number of fronts. With the community colleges.
I'm not buying us as a welcoming community.
Pardon?
I'm not buying us as a welcoming community. That is part of the problem. Dr. Ruffin has made us a welcoming community.
Oh, no, I'm not saying
And
we're not.
let me finish. And the fact that we have shown 50% administrative minority hiring is actually, my fellow commissioner here and I kind of looked at each other and I said, no, I truly believe that number. We have become, under Dr. Ruffin, a welcoming community. I am still going to point to the colleges. And if we don't go tell our colleges they need to do a better job, that we're missing this. Because that's where the problem lies. And these numbers, as far as I'm concerned, tells me that. Dr. Ruffin absolutely has made this a welcoming community. Her administrative hires show that. And now it needs to flow down. So if we don't have the population from the colleges, and I know the competition's there, but the competition's there because the colleges aren't giving us teachers. And we need to attack these colleges to say, it's time for you guys to step up. We're paying these colleges, students are paying ridiculous amounts of money. They need to start the process to fill the population for us to choose from. And that's where we need to go and attack. And that's what my expectation is from your office. Thank you, Madam President.
Vice President Harvey.
Thank you. Okay, there's a lot I want to address here. Just remind the commissioners that a complaint was lodged, presented to the Connecticut State Education, well, no, CHRO. And the committee, the advisory committee, is still meeting. We had a meeting yesterday. And we're looking at this specific issue, specifically Black and Latino teachers, okay? We received this information, same information, right, same information?
Yep.
Okay. But when we, yes, push back to the colleges, I'm assuming you mean, Commissioner Van Stone, the state colleges.
All colleges.
All right. So we have, because when I saw these figures, I was not pleased with the amount of African-American teachers. So my question immediately was, where are we recruiting? We have colleges, particularly HBCU, that are producing these teachers. But we need to go down there to recruit. However we're going to do that, that's where we need to go. So my initial question was, where are we recruiting? All right? So we're going to have to continue that. The committee is still in effect, going back to, 2017, you weren't here, Lee, but this is a big issue. So I would say, yeah, do the colleges, but I think we need to physically go and recruit from where the teachers are, all right? And, just kind of take it from there. Lastly, kind of well, it is kind of related because this is talking about personnel department. I'm going to choose my words very carefully. The first point of contact when a person applies for a job in the education department is the personnel department, with the exception once they submit their resumes, their application. So the first point of contact, usually, if you haven't recruited them, they're going online, they apply, is the personnel department. So I'm saying that to say that we really need to look at how we're handling those calls. Okay, because just this morning, I received a call about the way the call was handled. And not mentioning any names, just gonna do this just as a general comment, but customer service should be in mind, okay, when that person who is answering that phone, and be willing to help that person, whether it be a new recruit or an employee. So I think you need to monitor that, because that phone call might divert that person to go to another district. And we we can't afford that. Okay, we want qualified candidates teaching administratively, but if that phone call is not good, we may lose them. All right, so I hope you will monitor that. Just kind of walk out into the office to see what, the calls are going, et cetera. But we really, really need, this issue existed before your arrival and before Dr. Ruffin's arrival, but we need to now look at that, the way these calls are handled and who's speaking to them, and have customer service in mind. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, any other questions for
I have a
Mr.
comment.
Palmer?
I have a comment.
Yep. Commissioner
So,
Watt?
The point is well taken, Commissioner Harvey, of where we're recruiting. And I think I've said it before, and I'll say it again, no matter where we recruit, and no matter how welcoming we are, the color that matters in this conversation is green. And we don't pay enough to get any of those people who, when there's a smaller pool, and there's a lot of municipalities looking to hire minority teachers, we're at the bottom of the pay scale. So I believe that we're in the right places. I believe that we're talking the right talk. And as soon as we can get to the point where we're paying the right salary, I believe you'll see these numbers change. That's my personal opinion.
Okay. Can
I absolutely agree. It really is a structural issue, and we really need to ask the state for more money.
Liz,
Oh, go ahead.
if I may. I appreciate that, Commissioner Awad. But how long is that going to take? No, I'm just rhetorical. Okay, rhetorical.
A miracle.
But in the interim, we need to do something. We're losing good people, okay? And we want to recruit. So I think, and I'm just saying this, somehow we need to look at that money issue. But in the interim, I think we need to look at incentives that we can provide for the recruits. But it's not going to be an easy job, but so do we wait because the money isn't there? Do we not do anything? We need to recruit, having those factors in mind, and try our best to get these candidates here. So I hear you, but I think we need, that's why the committee, that's why the mayor put together this task force called the advisory committee to look at this. So, I understand there's going to be a brainstorming session. We really need to look at this because this is really a serious issue. We need to ensure that our staff are diverse and strive towards that. We have goals that have been set. I think we surpassed those goals. We need to continue on. So thank you. I just want to make that comment.
Agree.
Commissioner Adorno?
Thank you, Madam President. I've noticed in the past several meetings, obviously a lot of the resignations, but what obviously would stand out to me are a lot of their special education. I know you mentioned that a lot of the priorities are to hire secondary math and science, and it concerns me that a lot of them didn't provide a reason as to why they're leaving. So my concern as a priority would also be special education. And I do see hirings as well, but I don't know if there's still a shortage in that requirements. And not to say like every teaching position is important, but these are our most delicate children, and they require other services or additional services than just the regular ed, do you know what I'm saying? So my concern is I want to make sure that the teachers in the special education are getting the proper resources or support. I wish they would have told us why they were leaving so that we could make sure that we're doing what we can in our part. And not to say, I know the special ed director, everybody's been working great as far as that. So I wish they would have provided us with a little more intel, because obviously I'm concerned about the students that are left with no teachers, especially when it comes to special education. So, I hope that the hiring is coming along, and that right now there is no shortage in that particular subject or, education for the special ed. And I wish you good luck. I know it's not easy. I know Jessica's working really hard at that, but that is something that stood out to me, and another parent had mentioned to me, like, what's going on? And I don't really have a response back, but I'm happy and appreciative that I do see teacher hires, but I wish we knew why they were leaving. Was it, I know these kids, I myself have one, can be very difficult, so I would hope, if there's something that we're not providing them, that we would have an explanation so that we know how to fix it or prevent it moving forward. So, I appreciate the paperwork, all the data that you provided to us, and I just want you to kind of keep that in mind if we can, like, moving forward, can just, assure that, when it comes to those particular subjects, that they're being taken care of, accurately or more quickly, I would say. Thank you.
And one of the things that we are doing to hopefully help us with that is to be more rigorous, if you will, about the exit interviews, to get as much information as we can in terms of why people are leaving. We know, obviously, economics are a part of it, but there's other reasons as well, and I think we want to try to be able to get a more comprehensive appreciation of that.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam President.
Any other comments or questions? Dr. Ruffin.
Yes, and thank you, Mr. Palmer, for the thorough report. I just have a couple of comments relative to human capital, human resources, talent management, and hiring and retaining, and making certain that we do what we can to retain our quality staff, and it's very challenging. I had an opportunity to present, or as a part of a panelist for CABE, and part of that was on talent management and the recruitment and retention of high quality and effective and increasing minority hires. And while we are experiencing challenges in Waterbury, the entire state of Connecticut is as well. So while we have an issue, and we do, but Connecticut has that issue. And states are actively recruiting, so it becomes a competitive practice, and that does not diminish our effort in making certain that we have a highly qualified staff. I just want to make certain that our message is very clear, that it's highly qualified and highly effective staff to serve all children, and while we will continue to rigorously increase our minority hires and to be reflective of our student demographics within Waterbury, it is also very important to know that our students or young people are not necessarily going into teaching. And so it is very difficult to recruit when the enrollment is not equal to what states may try to increase, and it is certainly going to be very competitive in Connecticut because some districts are not able to hire minority staff at all. And what we want to do here in Waterbury is we want to value the staff that we have. We want to make certain that we retain the staff that we have that are highly effective, and we want to make certain that we're providing professional incentives that must include the funding, because we do lose staff because of funding. But we don't want to lose highly effective staff because of funding, regardless of race. And we also want to make certain that we prepare them so that there are opportunities for advancement within the district as much as possible. And that advancement doesn't necessarily mean going from being a teacher to being an administrator. Sometimes this was in the teaching ranks and an opportunity to influence other teachers. So it's a huge problem, and I just wanted to be clear that it's not only a problem for Waterbury, and we are cognizant of that, and we're going to do as much as we possibly can to recruit and to retain high-quality staff, but I just want to be sure that we are not just trying to say that we're going to do this without realizing that some of the challenges are out of our hands. And so the ones that are within our hands, we're going to handle, and we're going to handle it well. But there are some concerns across the state. I understand legislatively there's a goal to increase by 250 teachers throughout the state of Connecticut. Well, good luck with that. That's going to be a challenge, and it's good to have an ambitious goal, But some of that is not within our control unless we're able to get applicants to apply, and it's going to be very competitive, and money does matter.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Palmer.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, number 9, Committee on Building and School Facilities by school organizations and/or city departments. Any questions? Number 10, use of school facilities by outside organizations and/or waiver requests. Any questions? Seeing none, thank you. I'll do that at the end. Right? Yeah, okay. Superintendent's update to the board. Again, a lot of personnel issues, retirements, resignations, and we do have an executive session this evening. Yeah, so could I have a motion to go into executive?
Motion to convene into executive session for discussion concerning the appointment, employment, performance evaluation, health, or dismissal of a public officer or employee.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained, motion carries. We will be in executive session.
Where are we going?